Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today I have Ashley with us, and she is from Toronto, Canada, and she is going to tell us a little bit about her journey. Ashley, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome.
No problem. Thank you.
Appreciate having you on. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, just personally, whatever you feel like sharing, non-endo related, just to start so we can get to know you a little bit.
So I'm Ashley. I just turned 34 this year. I'm from Toronto. I didn't grow up in Toronto. I actually grew up pretty close to where you live. I grew up near Windsor. Things that I like to enjoy, I guess, in my spare time. I like to do yoga. I like to go to the gym, and I have a real interest in health. Just because I have some educational background in it as well, but I don't work in it. I work in finance, actually, so completely different. And then I'm just kind of still new to all this. I'm in kind of the learning phase about endometriosis. So, but you'll learn more as we go on.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for sharing that. And we'll get into more of this, but yeah, I'd love to hear about like just your feedback on yoga and the gym and stuff like that too. But I know you're newly getting into kind of the endo world and figuring everything out with endometriosis, but take us from the top. You know, I always like to start with the beginning of someone's journey. Do you remember when you first started your period? And if and when you do you remember it being painful?
Yeah, I was in 7th grade. So I'm going to say I was around 13, 14 years old. And I remember getting it at school. I don't remember it being that bad that day compared to as like time went on. But I do remember in elementary school being home a lot. I had really bad cramps. Like I was on the couch, couldn't move. I was throwing up. Heavy bleeding, just really terrible symptoms, and it wasn't good. I missed a lot of school because of it. The other problem is I was very irregular. I was getting them every couple months. It was not, I never knew when it was going to come.
Right. And so you couldn't even plan.
No. So it just hit me out of nowhere.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is tough. So during this time, is anyone saying to you like, I don't think this is normal, or, what were your friends, family, what were people telling you? Because obviously if you're missing school and staying home, that's a little bit of a red flag that something's wrong.
I think my mom is a retired nurse now, but I think she was starting to she was worried. I think about the pain especially and how irregular it was. It was kind of a red flag. And I remember going to my family doctor, and she recommended birth control. I think it was Marvelon, if my memory serves correctly, which I don't know if you have that.
That's okay. We have a lot of people in Canada who listen. So
yeah, it's a very popular birth control pill. And I was on birth control for about 14 years. And I think I started around age 15.
Okay. So even on birth control at 15, you were still in excruciating pain every month.
Actually, I had pain definitely the day before and the day of, but not compared to when I'm not on birth control. But I do.
It did help.
It brought it. The only thing that I liked about it, to be honest with you, is my period actually came and I knew when.
Yeah,
that was kind of the saving grace for me.
So you could plan.
Yes, and the pain was definitely a lot less. I wasn't throwing up. I may have missed school here and there because of it, and social events, and I wouldn't be able to work out. But I just know that it felt like things were better.
Yeah, and that was pretty much like all through high school. You felt that way, and kind of once you got on it, you just learned to adapt, and you took the pill and you got through it.
Mm-hmm. And then I remember I started around, I don't know, 18 or so. I started to have a lot of stomach issues. Well, I thought it was my stomach.
Right.
I used to get bloated and it would hurt, and I don't remember it being always associated with my period. And I went to Emerge, quite
Mm-hmm.
a few times, more times than needed, and they kept looking and they're like, we don't know, maybe it's something you ate, maybe you have IBS. We can't find anything. But then I went again at age 20 or so when I moved away for college, and I had my first pap smear in Emerge because I'd never had one before, and I was in there having really bad pelvic pain. I thought it was from Subway. I ate Subway that day, and it may have been, now that I think about it now. And they're like, we don't know, we did an ultrasound, we can't find anything, it might be IBS.
And during this time, like you're taking birth control, you're probably talking to a doctor, going to Emerge, and everybody's just, again, it's just the IBS. I'm sure maybe UTI a couple times was thrown out.
Oh, all the time I had UTIs.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
no one is ever saying anything else. It's just these general potential things.
Mm-hmm. And all my family doctor kept saying was, she was like, I don't know why you keep getting these UTIs, and just kept giving me antibiotics over and over and over.
Right.
And then I guess after that, the main thing that would have happened would be, I had a 7 millimeter kidney stone when I was 24. The worst pain I've ever been in my life. I know I experienced endo pain, and I've had a kidney stone, and I can say that endo is very close
Oh my
to
goodness.
the pain threshold. And that was wrongfully diagnosed. That was multiple UTIs that kept going on, like I was saying before, and she just kept ignoring it, not doing ultrasounds, and we would have saw a 7 millimeter kidney stone in my kidney.
Oh my goodness. So how did you finally get diagnosed with that? Were you just in excruciating pain and went to the hospital?
Yes, I went to Emerge one night by myself, because my mom actually said to me, I lived with my mom at the time. Hopefully she's going to listen to this and hate me, but she's like, oh, your back hurts all the time. And I was like, Mom, this is like bad. This is really bad. And it was like midnight on Thanksgiving. And I drove myself there, and the next morning they found it. And I was like, I'm not crazy.
No, right. So you had to stay in the hospital overnight?
Yes.
Wow. And probably because the pain was so bad. And I know, like you said, your mom will listen, but it's hard when, especially in the beginning, I feel like when we have pain all the time, it's not right, but I do feel like people stop taking us so serious. Like, yeah, your leg hurts all the time, or, it's sciatica, or, like, I just feel like that happens because we are constantly in pain.
Yeah. And I think that's what my mom thought, like that I was, I don't know, maybe over exaggerating.
Sure.
But then when she came to Emerge and saw me, and she knew what was wrong, she knew.
Yeah, she felt bad. I'm sure she was like, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is kind of our tipping point as to where things kind of went sideways. Even with, being on birth control, things started to get worse from there.
Yeah. So what happened? So you had that, you dealt with the kidney stone. Tell me about like what your symptoms start to, like, what starts happening in your life where you start to notice that something's really wrong?
Well, I think it was actually, I'm just looking here. Yeah, it was after. So I kept having all of these symptoms after I had a lithotripsy from the kidney stone, which,
What's that?
I guess I should explain that. So basically, I was slightly sedated, and I was laying in water, but mostly only my lower back, and they used sound waves to break up the kidney stone because there was no way I was passing that. And to go inside and laser it, it would have been a really long wait. And I was on Tylenol 3s every single day for 2 months, and I couldn't function without them. So that's how I know that I've been in more pain than I am now.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So then I kept getting all of these tests I had a urologist at the time, and he was in London, Ontario. So I used to live in a different city for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent me for all these tests for my kidneys to make sure that they were working properly, because I kept saying I was having back pain and urinary tract infections. And they
Right.
kept looking at my kidney function. They were making sure my kidneys were clear, there wasn't any stones, making sure there's no obstructions. I can't even tell you how many tests I had. I don't even remember. It was all in my early 20s, so like 10 years ago.
Right.
And the one I got a MRI done, the first one I've ever had, and I still had my family doctor from when I was a kid, and they got the results back, and they said that they could see um, like my lymph nodes were all enlarged all over my body. And I think at first that was a mistake, because my doctor called me and she was like, we may need you to come in for more tests. We found the scan showing lymph nodes like enlarged all over your body, like all over the scan, and we're really concerned. She was like, based on your age, you could have Hodgkin's lymphoma. And
Oh my
that's
gosh.
not a phone call you want to get.
No,
It
no.
really freaked me out.
Yeah. And
Um,
now, how old are you? Are you 25 at this?
yeah, around 25.
Oh my
And
goodness.
and this was only because I have a lymph node. I still have it in my neck. It's enlarged. It's not, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not causing me any problems. It's on the right side, which is pretty much where all my issues are. Um, and I also have one in my groin on my left side. And I actually had a biopsy done on that. And I was around 25 years old. And they didn't find anything, thankfully.
Yeah.
But I was really freaking out.
Yeah, of
So
course.
they're finding, weird things in all of these tests they're doing.
I mean, how are you handling this at 25? You were like, okay, I didn't feel well. I had a kidney stone, and now it's just like things are, I mean, you poor thing.
Getting bad.
Were you in school at this time, or were you done?
No, I was just working when I
Okay.
was going through all of this.
Not that that
Um,
makes it any easier, but
yeah, I had to cut back on my hours, and I was living with my mom at the time. Um,
so they test
and
everything. They tell you, okay, it's not, do they have any reason why these lymph nodes may be swollen?
no, and they told me to keep an eye on it. They said it's what was the word that they use? Benign. As of that time. I
Yeah.
haven't got them to look at it since, but they said that it was fine for now and to keep an eye on it. I've since switched doctors a couple times since then. So
Yeah, I would assume that that happened. Okay, so what happens after that whole scenario plays out? You still feeling sick and back pain?
yeah, and I always thought, because I was in car accidents and because I fell around that time, I thought it was all related to, it's like, especially now I have hip pain on the right side, and that's the side I fell on. And the car accident injured the right side of my neck. So it's weird that it's all on the right. My kidney stone was also on the right side of my body.
Interesting. I mean, inflammation, I think it can all contribute to that pain too on that side.
So what's happened since then? Basically, nothing really happened in between 25, 29. I just kind of, I don't know, got through it, stayed on birth control, tried to take care of myself. I got to age 30 and I decided I wanted to go off birth control just because I was on it long enough. I was in a long-term relationship. Um, I just didn't feel like I needed to be on it anymore. And the doctors, they didn't really understand. They're like, we think you should stay on it if you don't want to get pregnant. And I said, at this time, I don't, if it happens, it happens. They just kind of looked at me, but I was like, I don't care.
Right, right.
And then things really started to go sideways. I didn't get my period for almost a year after I went off birth control.
Wow. How
So I
are you
wasn't,
feeling in that year? Did you have like
not good.
cramps or yeah? Tell me
um,
about how you felt that year with the no period, no birth control.
I don't remember having cramps. But I do remember having sore breasts. I remember mad mood swings, coming off birth control for so long.
Sure.
I felt really emotional. Um, I was also going through a breakup at the time, so it wasn't a good time. Like for
Yeah.
me and that guy, we didn't work out. And I went to the doctors and I just said, I'm concerned. I haven't had my period. I think it had been 4 months by then. I went off birth control. It's not coming back. And I think this also happened in my 20s as well, because I think I tried to go off of it and it didn't come back. And then I went to the doctor and she put me back on
Put
it.
you back on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this time I was just like, no, I'm not going back on it. Eventually, I got to go see a gynecologist in London, and she put me on, or she did an ultrasound and everything. She was thinking I had PCOS, which is, I don't even remember what it stands for anymore.
Yeah, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Did
That's
she
right.
think you had that because your period wasn't coming?
That's what my family doctor thought. Yeah, she thought
Okay.
that maybe I could have that. And the gynecologist said, I don't think you have that. I just think that you're having trouble coming after the pill. It's just hard for your period to come back. So she gave me progesterone, which I only had to take twice, actually. It was to kind of, if I didn't, I had to take it and then I'd get my period. And then if I didn't get it the next month, I'd wait. And then the next month I would take it for 14 days.
Interesting.
Those pills gave me the worst side effects I've ever had in my life from anything.
What were some of the side effects you had? I've never taken the progesterone only.
They gave me night sweats really badly. My breasts were so sore that nothing could touch them. Like I had to wear a sports bra or something because I couldn't have a shower. Swings. I was really nauseous all the time, and my periods were really, really, really painful. So I took that twice for only 2 cycles.
So your period does come back and you're taking this progesterone, and then now you have this like very painful period.
Yeah, so as time has went on, I'm finding each month that my cramps are getting more and more worse. I'm still having the night sweats still even now, and my breasts are sore pretty badly, and I have back pain, which I never had when I was on the pill.
So did these symptoms start to become daily, or were they only around your cycle?
They're at ovulation and around my cycle. Sometimes also randomly. I think it's to do with food would be my guess. So I told my doctor, my family doctor now, because I switched doctors last year, and she said, do you have any health concerns you want to talk to me about? And I said, things are going pretty well, but I said, I'm having really bad period cramps, like, worse than usual. And she gave me Toradol, which did not work. I don't know if I don't know if people know what it is. It's kind of similar to Advil.
Mm-hmm.
It reduces hormones that cause inflammation in the body, and it's just it's a little stronger than Advil, I guess. I didn't find that it worked for me. And then she gave me mefenamic acid, it's just a short-term pain treatment. You have to take it before the pain is going to set in, or it's not effective, which for me, that doesn't work because I'm irregular. And it causes
so you don't
dizziness.
know. Yeah, you don't know when it's coming.
And the first time I took this pill, it is the first time I had pain shoot down my legs. That has been a new symptom for me that's come in the last 6 months.
Okay.
So what I've been doing mostly to help with this pain, how I started because I don't want to be on drugs. So my friend is involved, like he really likes to use THC and CBD medicinally, and he gave me a card to go talk to a doctor so I could get a prescription for CBD, THC. And when I went in, it was November of 2019, so not too long ago. And I said, I have really painful cramps. I'm in the kind of midst of being diagnosed. I don't know what it is right now. I was like, is there anything you can give me to help me, at that time of the month? So she recommended THC and CBD both. CBD during the day because I can't take THC at work,
Right.
and THC at night to, or when I'm in extreme pain, is when I'm supposed to take the THC. So I started with the flower and the pills. I didn't find they were very effective, but now I'm taking a spray. I
Okay.
just spray a couple under my tongue. It's THC and CBD, and I
Okay.
take that every day, and I'm finding that's helping for sure.
That's really great. So how did you find out about endometriosis, and what, like, you're on this podcast, so you know about endo, but at what
hmm
point did you put this together? Have you self-diagnosed yourself at this point?
I went back to my family doctor, and I think I was getting my physical done. I was approximately November, or again, of just last year.
Mhm.
And I said, you know, I'm 34. I'm starting to think, maybe I want to have a family someday. I said, I I feel like time is against me, and I'm worried about if I ever am able to get pregnant, just based on all the problems that I have.
Sure.
And she said, and I said, I would like to get an ultrasound done. I haven't had one done in a long time on my, I don't remember what the one is called, the one where
The
it goes inside.
the transvaginal. Yeah. In the
Yes.
past, did they ever find anything on a transvaginal ultrasound?
They found fibroids, but
Okay.
this one did not show fibroids. So those are gone, but
Okay.
she's thinking that they were misinterpreted. So my family doctor ordered an ultrasound. I had it done in December, and I got the results back actually online, which I kind of now am regretting. But the ultrasound said that I had a bicornuate uterus, which, if the listeners do not know, is a heart-shaped uterus. So basically, the uterus is an upside down triangle, if you think about it, but mine indents at the top and looks like a heart. It's not very far down. I just found out last month actually that it's not actually that bad. Um, some women can have their uterus completely split into two with a wall in between, which you would need to have surgery. It's only in 3% of women, so it's pretty, I wouldn't say very common. And it's like, I just looked it up online. I don't know, a whole lot about it because I've just been recently diagnosed, but it
Sure.
can cause irregular bleeding, miscarriages, painful period, and discomfort during sex, which sounds familiar.
Yes.
Um, so when I went to it, I went to a other gynecologist after that ultrasound came back. I saw her in February, just a couple months ago, and she went over the ultrasound with me and told me that a heart-shaped uterus is usually associated with endometriosis, usually hand in hand. And she definitely thinks, based on my symptoms and how much pain that I am in, that I definitely have endo. Um, we talked about, and my family doctor tried to push this on me to go on to take IUD. Because I have a heart-shaped uterus, I cannot have an IUD. So that is not an option for me. We talked about birth control. I'm not going back on birth control, and I've made that pretty clear.
I
And
understand. I understand. I completely understand. I feel the same way.
she gave me Vizan, which is basically, it acts like progesterone and reduces effects of estrogen. Basically, a treatment for endometriosis. And hopefully, if she listens to this, I guess she won't know who I am. I did not open the box that she gave me. She gave me a sample pack and a prescription, and I didn't take any of it. Actually, I went home, showed my boyfriend, and he started reading the side effects, and it said breast discomfort. I already have that. I don't want it. Headaches every single day. I would rather, be in pain for a little while, than having a headache every day, because it's going to really affect everything.
Right.
Weight gain, suicidal thoughts. That's the one that really bothered him.
Yeah.
And, just being on a pill, period. And I told her that I didn't want to be on one. And so she said we're having a follow-up. Is actually next week or
Okay.
very soon. And the next step is actually surgery, because she told me if these pills don't work out, or in the case that I don't want to take them, that's kind of where we're going.
Okay, so that's where you're at right now. How are you feeling about, I mean, obviously with the virus, things are probably going to be a little slower, but sounds like you still have an appointment. Are you guys doing telemedicine, or are you able to go to the office?
It'll be on the phone.
What are you thinking you want to do, or have you been doing more research about endometriosis and maybe considering like an endometriosis specialist that might know a little bit more, or is she a specialist, or is she just a regular OBG?
She's a regular OBG. I called my family doctor um, last month, and I said that I was thinking that I would want a doctor that maybe specializes in endometriosis, and she said, based on the wait time and everything, and she thinks that this doctor can help me and should still meet with her. And if I'm going to get the surgery booked, I should at least book the surgery. But she said I could be waiting a really long time to see somebody else. And I don't really have a long time. Like I do, but I don't. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, but since then, since I wasn't happy with her diagnosis or how she was treating me, because I told her I don't want to be on birth control because it's caused me so many problems. My period coming back, it didn't come back. She
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I don't think it's the birth control. It could be other things underlying in your life. It could be stress." I wasn't
Mhm.
there. I don't know what it was. And I was just like,
Oh, yep. Goodbye. Thank you.
so
Next. Thank
I
you.
went to, I already have a lot of knowledge, and I have a friend that works in natural medicine. I went on to Google and I looked up naturopaths specializing in women's medicine in Toronto. And I found this doctor there. I met her for the first time. Well, we had a phone conversation first just to kind of make sure we're a good fit.
Sure.
And then I met her March 4th, so not long ago. And I told her, told her everything's going on, all of my symptoms. She has copies of my blood work, my ultrasound, all of that stuff. And she deals with a lot of women that have endometriosis and other, you know, um, issues and any kind of health issues, really. And she has, so things that we've talked about, changing my diet is obvious. I haven't been really having gluten or dairy for a long time. Dairy has always bothered me, um, which maybe might make sense now.
Yeah.
Um, I'm on some supplements, curcumin, zinc. I'm also on one that's going through clinical trials right now for endometriosis. It's a natural instead of being on a drug. If people do want information about any of this, for sure you can message me and ask me, but I would always recommend talking to a doctor and actually, getting a treatment plan before you start taking things. But these are definitely things you can look into. Um, and just improving exercise. We've talked about acupuncture, pelvic floor physio, castor oil massage, and yeah, I've been kind of going down that journey, taking my supplements, watching my diet. I'm not perfect, I will admit.
No, nobody is. It's very difficult.
I love my beer and my coffee. It's not sweets.
Right.
Um,
Oh gosh, that's a hard one. I think I'd go for the sweets over beer, but I
Sweets is
get
only period.
it. I understand. I understand.
Yeah, but so I'm going down that route, and this doctor, the naturopath, she's honestly hoping that maybe I won't need surgery, because she says that these types of supplements and plan that she's had for other women, they've actually canceled their surgeries before they even happen.
That's wonderful. I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to know more information about that. And I think this is a good time for me to plug. I just started a Facebook group for this podcast just recently, like 2 weeks ago. So I don't know if you'd be interested in joining that, but when I publish this episode, I'm guessing people may have questions for you and they would love to learn what you're doing, because I know a lot of us with endo get fatigued on birth control and medications and surgery. I mean, it's it's a lot. And I try to go the natural path as well as much as I can until the pain is really bad. And then I have to address it.
Mm-hmm. And I guess as a side note, since I've started taking all these supplements and changing my diet, my pain has actually gone down a lot. I just had my last period, I think 3 weeks ago or something like that. And this is the first cycle I wasn't crying in pain. So I think that that is a definite, it's a big step up for sure.
That's
And
great.
the month before it actually came on time, which was really weird too.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. I mean, you've been doing this now it's been almost 2
A couple
months.
months. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that that's really great. And by the time we get this up, it'll probably be like 3 more weeks. Just because I've been recording like a crazy woman, but, I think then we can even get more feedback and see how you feel even after your next cycle too.
Mhm. For sure.
That's great that you're feeling it better and that you're not crying during your period. How are you feeling just day to day? Are you having any like stomach or gastro or anything like that type of symptoms? Or are you feeling pretty well most days?
Yeah, it's not every month now, but even this month I kind of looked at the calendar because since Sunday I haven't been feeling, the greatest, and I realized that maybe ovulation. So I would not say that my symptoms are gone, but
Right.
they're definitely more tolerable.
That's great. That's good. Well, is there anything else? I mean, you are definitely on the beginning of this journey, but you've found out a lot. I mean, is there anything else you want to add or tips and tricks that you've learned along the way? I know you're not technically in the beginning, but the beginning of learning about what endo can do and how it can affect you.
Um, I would say the biggest things for me, changing your diet is definitely going to have a good result, because I know that there are certain foods that are inflammatory, and those are definitely ones that you want to avoid, especially during your period. I'm finding I can't drink when I'm on my period. It just makes things so much worse. And I would also say, and one thing I need to improve on, exercise is definitely going to help. I know it's hard to get out there and to have the motivation sometimes to go to the gym, and you're just not feeling 100%. But sometimes I think you have to, even to do something light and push yourself to go, will also have a big impact. And also massage. I am a big advocate for having massages. That
Yes.
will help.
And
Um,
I like baths. Baths really help too with some Epsom salt. I mean, I just think it's such an underrated tool that has helped me a lot.
Sometimes I've been in so much pain I haven't been able to lay in the bath, which
Yeah.
is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because the one day I tried that, I was like, "Oh, maybe if I have a bath, it'll go away." And then I tried to lay in the bath, and I was like, "No."
Get me out of here. I know. I know. Really, I mean, it's like listening to your body is what you have to do and just do your best. Is there anything besides dairy and gluten diet-wise that you've changed?
Processed food, I really try to avoid. I'm actually almost vegetarian, but not quite. I only have meat, I would say 4 times a week, 4 meals. I've cut back on coffee, and I've cut back on my drinking. So those things have definitely helped. One side note I guess I forgot to mention, which may be somewhat important, is I found out, from my mom actually, that my grandma used to have pain during ovulation and painful periods, but she was never diagnosed with anything.
Right.
But she's gone, so I can't ask her about it, unfortunately.
Right. 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 No. And did your mom
Yeah.
have painful periods?
She said, yeah, they were painful, but she doesn't really know what to compare it to, I guess.
Right.
But I do remember her definitely telling me that, periods hurt, but I was just like, this
Yeah.
is more.
I mean, I've mine's similar too. My grandma, I think she had a hysterectomy when she was 30, but I grew up with her and I would be like writhing on the couch, rocking back and forth, and she's like, "This is normal. You just have bad periods." And
Mhm.
I do think it's a generational thing because nobody really knew what endometriosis was. So, from our grandmothers to their grandmothers that may have had it, it was just, you unfortunately have bad periods and you just press on. Like that's how she said it to me. I mean, she had no idea what endometriosis was. She just thought I was like her and, had painful periods.
Yeah, because like when my periods came back and they hurt a lot, I just thought, because it happened when I was younger, I thought it was normal. But then it started to get worse. So that was the flag for me. So I guess if people are listening, like when I first started listening to your podcast, it really opened my eyes to look at everyone's symptoms and what they went through. And I could say, wow, it sounds like me. So hopefully newer people that are listening to this will maybe look back and see things that could maybe be pointing them in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it starts with painful periods, and then it starts to turn into something that's either it's different for everyone. But for me, it was always my GI. It was always my stomach. I always had stomach aches. And it sounds like for you, your back was hurting all the time. And it starts to turn into this thing that's not around your period, but you don't associate it with your period. Why would you? Why would I think my stomach ache would have anything to do with my period when I'm not on it?
Yeah, that was me. It was gastro and then back pain that I just thought, I don't know, I just thought that because the Coraxons, I was going to be in pain for the rest of my life, maybe.
Right.
But now I can actually see that it goes away and comes back.
Right. And tracking it. And I know people hear me say this all the time. I'm always like, track your pain. But tracking my pain has taught me so much. And same as you said you've been suffering for many, many years. Me too, 20 years. I've only started tracking my pain 2 years ago. And it is insanely crazy how cyclical it is. It is exactly, it makes sense during my period and ovulation, but there's other times when like my neck or shoulder will flare up, and it's always like 4 days before I ovulate. There's just weird patterns that I think are very helpful to track if you're on the endo journey. It's been very helpful to me.
I've started doing that too. I definitely track my periods because of my regularity, but I also track my pain and where it is.
Yep. I think it's great. And if you do decide to have surgery or maybe potentially see an endo doctor eventually, or whatever you end up doing, I bring that book with me and I say, it's almost like, this is my backup. Like I'm tracking this. This is what's happening to me. It's cyclical. So I know something's wrong. And it's nice to have that kind of in your back pocket to pull out and say like, no, this is my pain.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's good for proof when you're going to talk to a doctor as well.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Ashley, thank you for sharing your journey. I'll look forward to hearing more about what's going on with your natural health and everything. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I think I pretty much covered everything. Obviously, if people have questions about heart-shaped uterus, which I might think they will, if it's not, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And I think when I first mentioned to you, you didn't really know.
I've heard of it, but I didn't know, anything about what it meant or why or any of that.
Yeah, but I will definitely, maybe someday, especially if I have a surgery booked or something, I would definitely love to come back
Yes.
and give updates, because I feel like it's really important to educate now, and I've been doing so much reading and seeing what doctors put people on in the States and Canada, all over the world, and I can't believe that is the treatment that some people are on.
Yeah.
And what they're going through.
The lack of awareness is still very, very prevalent with this disease.
So I hope that it picks up for sure. And I will try my best to keep educating others.
Keep sharing your story. That's why I do this podcast. And I so appreciate your willingness to come on and talk about this. I know that it's a very personal topic, but I appreciate you coming on and chatting and sharing with us where you are in the journey.
No problem.
All right. Thank you.